Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me, as always, here. Here in the text of A Course in Miracles, this video series has moved on to chapter 23, and we're going to take a specific look at chapter 23, section 1 today. Just the first three paragraphs. You'll notice as you follow along here that chapter 23 is entitled The War Against Yourself. Hmm. Yeah. We don't like to admit to ourselves that we're really at war against ourselves, seemingly locked in a frustrating negative feedback loop. The image of a hamster wheel pops instantly to mind, where we're doing the same thing, performing the same exercise, running and running and running, attempting to get somewhere and getting nowhere, doing the same things over and over and over again. And it is well worth doing exactly what you're doing right now and taking the time out of this whirlwind of excess activity to pay attention to the voice of the Holy Spirit. Pretty much. That's always worth it. Always. We don't like to admit to ourselves that what's going on here as we do the same things repeatedly and suffer again is that we're at war with ourselves. And that's not something that it's very convenient for us to hold in mind all the time. We'd prefer not to believe that and dismiss it, which you're more than welcome to do, but we dismiss it at our own peril, for sure, at our own risk. And the risk is just more repetition of staying stuck, which is not what we say we want. So, here in this particular section of the text, we're told right off the memory of God comes to a quiet mind. Mm. The memory of God comes to a quiet mind. In other words, a mind that is not in conflict with itself. So you might ask, okay, what conflict? Well, we think we're an individual, an ego, and we identify with the ego, and we act accordingly, defining and defending personal territory, which exhausts us, attacking people, animals, events that we see as outside of us. And even if you do not physically attack or verbally attack, mentally, it's the same thing when we think our little judgmental thoughts of people and when we think them about ourselves, which, by the way, is the same thing because there is no separation of any kind. Yet, when we identify with the ego, we're all in for the idea of separate individual beings. And the suffering follows from there. Inevitably, inevitably. The outward form may differ. One day you may feel better than the next, or if you want to put it really pessimistically, which some people obviously do, my suffering's not as bad today. Well, yesterday was a whirlwind, oh man, but today, well, I'm okay. Mm, but that's not very much fun, is it? At all. Yet that's where we find ourselves when we continue to identify with the ego. And here's the thing, you don't have to. Not a single one of us has to identify with the ego at all. So you may wonder about this quiet mind thing. And people ask all kinds of questions about this. And one of them, and the underlying question is, why a quiet mind? I don't want to be quiet. All right. Well, no one's making you. But a mind that's at conflict with itself, at war with itself, is not quiet. And when we're frantic, we're not calm. Boy, that sounds obvious, doesn't it? Think about it. When are you more likely to remember who you are? When you're calm and peaceful and tranquil, or when you're in a mad rush with all kinds of frenetic thoughts going on, attack thoughts, judgment, guilt, blame, hurrying, rushing, racing, anxious, stressed, and living the modern 21st century life like a cultural badge of honor. No matter where you live in the world. We like to present ourselves as doing life at breakneck speed. Why? Why? Doesn't mean that you can't live your normal life, hold your normal job, hold your normal relationships and cherish those and do what you do. You can do it from a much calmer place. I mean, think about it. Of course, the memory of God would come only to a quiet mind. Meditation and mindfulness practices are a thing in world spirituality across multiple traditions for this reason. Also, for the reason that it brings us back to the present moment when we get carried away and distracted and allows us to focus on the object of meditation, in this case, the choice that we get to make every moment of every day between the Holy Spirit and the ego, between truth and illusion. The more we're aware of our distraction, the better, because we can bring our mind back to the present moment. You've heard this multiple times before across spiritual traditions. This is why. The memory of God comes to a quiet mind, one that does not have conflict, that does not have this internal push-pull, tug of war going on. So this happens because we want deep down the peace of God. We all do, which is why we're on the spiritual path in the first place. Yet we also want to keep our little specialness, our little pieces, bits and pieces and chunks of ego-ness. In other words, we want to forgive almost everybody, but reserve this special little hatred and disdain for this group of people, the opposition political party. Yes, maybe an abusive ex or a horrible boss or something, right? We want to withhold our forgiveness and have the peace of God. We cannot do that. And you know that's true. And of course, if you've been studying the course, you'll know that's true also. Our forgiveness is either total or it's not at all. And that's the way that works. And we all know that. And, well, because we choose not to put that into practice, the course repeats it over and over again. So this video series repeats it over and over again. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. We don't have to continue to fight this war against ourselves. It's completely futile. There's no point in it. The ego itself is a simple mistake. There is no separation of any kind. The ego is, well, it's separation itself. It's our belief in this separate state where we can be separate from God. Mm-mm. And then we play that out, believing that because we're a separate supposed ego, everyone else is too. So let's get each other's stuff and do our little battles and enact our warfare. Again, does not have to be physically demonstrated, as in a war with bombs and automatic rifles and tanks and guns. It takes place in the mind. All thoughts of attack and judgment and blame, all of those. And we all do them. We've been conditioned to think this way. This course is showing us a different way, one that points to peace. It's up to us to walk that path. And we all know it's true that the memory of God comes to a quiet mind. This war against ourselves is completely pointless. It's exhausting. Are you done? Hopefully, you answered yes to that. And the very fact that you're here watching this series of videos is a profound and powerful testament to the fact that you've said yes to that many times. Whether you were consciously aware of it or not actually does not make any difference. You're here. Yeah, this war against ourselves is pointless. We don't have to continue it. The ego and God will never meet. They're completely opposite in every way. The ego's at war against God, wanting to usurp God's function, and wants you to anoint it and place it upon the throne, so to speak. Every time we identify with it, we attempt to do just that. But the ego and God can't be at war with each other. The ego is nothing. It is a mistake, an illusion, in other words. Separation is an illusion. There is no separation of any kind. The ego and God can never meet, therefore you and God can never meet. Doing that math in your mind? Good. There is no separation of any kind. We're not separate from God, and we're certainly not separate from our brother. That's a term from this course referring to every living thing. There is no separation at all. The ego and God can't meet. They cannot be at war with one another. We're imagining that we're fighting this series of ongoing battles. We could choose to set all of them aside right now. This choice that the Course talks about a lot by design, naturally, so that we think about it, which you're invited to do, so that we get it and that we put it into practice. So, so important. You and the ego will never meet because the ego is a mistake. You're not a mistake. You're the Son of God. We are all the Son of God, singular, the creation of God, the thought of God. Here's something. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. It's phrased rather eloquently here in A Course in Miracles in this way. Ideas leave not their source. Yes, please, you may capitalize the S. Written with a lowercase s means thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Capital S. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Where are you? The ego does not want you to go there, but you're welcome to go there at will. Please. So let's talk here as we wrap up about a quiet mind. You may look at people that are talking about A Course in Miracles. You may take a look at people that are spiritual practitioners in any tradition and think, oh man, that person is really calm. He looks really chill. Or she looks really, really chill, peaceful, tranquil, right? You may look at them and think, wow, how do they do that? Well, the issue with our doing this is, of course, the comparative reality that we begin to indulge in, which is, of course, a separation device. There is no separation of any kind. So, how can you be better than or inferior to what appears to be another person? Can't be. There's no separation of any kind. So, this comparative reality that we all indulge in is completely useless. I mean, all it does is get in our way. The bottom line is you can cultivate this tranquil mind right here, right now, in the present moment, in many, many different ways. In my experience in this lifetime as a meditation instructor, the one idea that continues to pop into my mind every time is a reassurance that what you could call a really effective and beautiful and powerful and good, all labels that we heap on everything, a very successful meditation can be really short. You don't have 3.5 years to go sit on a retreat. You don't have to. Don't have 3.5 hours to sit in quiet contemplation. You don't have to. I mean, if you can, fabulous. If you're instructed and called to do that, great. You don't even have to have 3.5 minutes. All you need is one cycle of breath. A successful meditation can be as short as one in and out breath. Just place your awareness on this. Note the sensations of the inhale breath and the exhale, and just rest your mind on that. You've just meditated. Now, having done that for one breath, you're cordially invited by every living thing to continue that for a second breath. And having done that for the second breath, you get the point, as long as you like. But it doesn't have to be elaborate. And when you notice your thoughts coming up, just leave them. You don't have to follow after them, and you certainly don't have to try to suppress them. That's really hard and too much strain completely. Just let them go. And there are other ways to cultivate this quiet mind. You may have daily rituals in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the afternoon, places that you go for a more peaceful state of mind, like a walk or a hot bath, or I don't know, something. Sitting on the couch with a hot cup of coffee and tea and just closing your eyes and breathing for a minute, making a connection with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. There are many different ways, but the point here is they're not as difficult as people make them out to be. And this calm and peaceful and tranquil state of mind is your natural state. So rather than finding this highly unnatural, which it can seem to be at first, I get that, it's actually approaching normalcy, approaching who we really are. And we do that not by going anywhere, but by setting all of these layers of guilt and stress and frustration aside through the practice of true forgiveness, through our relationship with our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, through doing this course. And there are many different ways to cultivate this mind, calm, peaceful, and tranquil. So, my hope, as always, is that this has been helpful to you in some practical sense. It is important to do this course. It's critical, in fact. That's how we learn the best. Yes, it has value to understand all of these teachings with the intellectual thinking mind, but as we all know, this intellectual thinking mind that we so adore and elevate and worship here in the world is extremely limited. Experience, however, is not limited. We learn by doing the course. You don't even have to actually understand these ideas to put them into practice. What I've just said may make absolutely no sense, but if you can spend a second or two doing a one breath meditation or connecting with the Holy Spirit, that's huge. We learn by doing this. Our experience demonstrates to us that the ideas that we're talking about here are true. And we don't even really have to fully understand the ideas at all. Just do this. In fact, Jesus says in the workbook for students, this famous, or shall we say infamous, part of A Course in Miracles, that we don't have to understand these ideas with the intellectual thinking mind in order to just do them. Put them into practice and let our experience guide us. Let our experience teach us and show us and demonstrate to us, prove to us, if you prefer, that these ideas are true. So there are many different ways that we can do this. So I thank you for joining me. If you're new or newer to this series of videos, I'd love to have you subscribe and join us. The prompt is over here in the corner of your screen. Just go ahead and click that icon and you will be invited to subscribe. So please go ahead and do that. It's an international community and it continues to grow. Thank you to those of you who have recently joined us here. The videos have been ongoing. It's been almost 4 years now. This series of videos began as a live stream on the online platform Enlightened World Network, where, by the way, you can still find them. That was a live stream for about 6 months, and then we decided that they'd all be pre-recorded, which is what we're looking at here. The beauty of this is you can watch it anywhere, anytime. And those old live streams are actually still available on this channel. You just have to scroll way back. And yeah, it's been almost 4 years, so there are well over 1,000 videos by this point. Questions, as always, are more than welcome. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is that so we can have a dialogue. If you have need of questions and answers, please feel welcome to leave them here. This can be about A Course in Miracles specifically, or spirituality in general, or anything that you're finding you'd like some assistance with. I'm happy to help in that regard, for sure. So, thank you as always for tuning in, and I will talk to all of you very soon.